Yeah, I figure that most of you have been to a basic arithmetic class, right? I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence. Those that are in college know what a calculus calculator is, a TI-83, if you will. Or heck, just go into the mathematics department of Oxford University, okay? If you want to choose to go do that, okay? So they know what calculus is, they know what polarity is, they know what negative slash positive is, right? They know what polarized consciousness is. Ask any psychiatrist what a bipolar disorder is. It's binary. Okay? It's a binary disorder. It means your mind is not integrated to experience being one. So that's the competition of playing ping pong between one and the other. So you realize when you're doing that, you're not moving very fast. Now, when you plug in, like plugging in, like an audio video plug in, right? A jack, like in the back of a stereo receiver to play a TV screen or a computer screen, right? I'll share a few things. It's called basic logic. You know what a log is? A log scale, a logos, a log operating system, like analog, graphing analogs, fire, graphing the fire, graphing the electromagnetic spectrum, going all the way from one end to the other. I'm experiencing being one from one extreme to the other. Okay? I know it's very simple, which means the electromagnetic radiation came out as a result of us being one. Okay? So now we're into the learning speed, which is known as the Bardo point, of how many units of consciousness that represent seated races can experience being one, which means we healed it all. Right? And the Bardo point is to measure, well, how long is it going to take before it goes into free fall? There isn't enough time. Whoops, fail safe. Nomi code, stealth code. That's Guardian. Okay? And so the simplicity of this, when you think of indigos, and if you've watched any of the Voyager materials, particularly one where the lady came out and listed the casualties, how many indigos are lost, right? And bless your heart, Ashaya Diane, for what you did for bringing out so much of this information. Because here's some truth: if you go back to look at her story on the Voyager material, she talked about going to Kauai, multidimensional learning, and she says she was blown away by what she was shown. And that's based on a clearance, because she has an indigo clearance. That's because she's with the founder races. Okay? That means she never forgot the ancient spiritual practices of the ancestral spirits. Okay? Which are known as spiritual practices. They forgot their roots. That's called assimilation. That's what artificial deadlight does. Wants you to forget who you are, what your spiritual practices once were that were handed down generation after generation after generation after generation. They go all the way back to the founder races and the root races. Forget your identity. Forget who you came from. See? Cut you off from the founder races by believing what is false is true. And when you begin to believe that what's false is true, now you experience being false, which is fake, which is deadlight. That's called a mirror swap out. So when I was a child, I know the torque speed differential in learning at the speed at which the future is going to be experienced by what we're experiencing now, by experiencing the highest acceleration of electrons, by not holding one captive. That's the highest speed of learning. She was chosen, and she could experience how that works by what she was shown. Because we were not going to lose the future. We've already secured the future. And those that know, know. Dan Bolin knew. he got the speed memo. So anyway, it's too simple. But I'm all too familiar with how a spiritual battle is fought because things that I knew as a child, which is like we're not new to this rodeo, right? This is not a school, a beginner's school for learning how to maintain your shield. Shields up. When you acknowledge you're on a spiritual battlefield, that means that you know that you're on an energy battlefield, which means they want your energy. And when they want your energy, the shield has to go up immediately. As soon as you become self-aware enough with your equipment to have those circuits running as fast as you can through your heart and your soul. Because once it becomes aware of who you are, now that you're in that battlefield environment, which is dead light, which is AI light, you're a target. That's a targeted individual. That's why they took down so many indigos. That's right. So failure was not an option. So I wanted to share that because we've been successful. Okay? And it is true, Patty Broussard, the war is over. And really, when you think about it, I use one word, and I've been saying this in all my videos ever since I first started put up. Speed. The speed at which something can be experienced. By experience being the one. Being a beloved. That's why I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. It's like when you think of, if you go back to say, pick a year, Mama, 1960, I suppose, what was in, when we were using the rotor phones, they weren't called rotor phones, right? Even though as kids, we used to have the little tin cans with the rope and build little tree houses. Hey, I can hear you, right? So if I wanted to go have some fun, I didn't use a phone. I couldn't stand to be on a phone, as a matter of fact. To be honest with you, I wanted to be there with you, eyes to eyes, soul to soul, spirit to spirit. Right? So the only thing that a phone, I'm just giving you my own personal perspective, the only utility, as utility goes, right, electrical magnetic power, that the phone had was being able to say, out of respect, hey, are you available? Is your energy available? Yeah, come on over. Okay, I'll be right over, right? Rather than just showing up and knocking on the door. Maybe they don't want to be disturbed because they're taking a nap, or maybe the guy is making love to his girlfriend, right? Now I got to stop and answer the door. But if your antenna is working right, you already know that. Which means you don't need a phone, and you don't need to knock on the door to know that. I know. So when you think of, because I've mentioned this before, when you're running that Merkaba that fast, it means that events are happening so fast simultaneously, it's like, it's gone. So when you understand how compressing a movie, unwinding a movie, how fast a movie is actually experienced and played and done, wow. That movie, and that's how I measured it as a child, between pick a place. How about Malibu Beach? I still have that picture held in memory when my dad was going to throw me in the ocean. Yeah, and the AI just sent a little drone bug to distract me on my arm so I couldn't continue the flow. That's how it works. A different spiral going in the other direction, right? And it is a matter of knowing the spirals. One's is going fast at a higher rate of speed. The other one's going back in form. That's the form of the flow, which is the form of the spiritual flow of creation. One is wanting to experience more of what it can create out of what love is, going at a higher rate of speed than the other one that's going in the other direction, which is lower rate of speed. So that would be like a lizard going back to what it was before a lizard, which is called lower in form, right? Which is lower in intelligence. That's why they put the reptile brain in. Hardwire that to the fear-based brain. Remember Max Spears talked about that? So that the shape shifts, so they struggle. Which one am I? A mammal or a lizard? Right? Am I a neo or a fear-based brain? The neocortex, the frontal cortex, the chip in the cortex. Hey, plant this in you. Right? So you see how this plays out. And so this really is firewall stuff. Invoking your shield as soon as you're up and running running the eternal spirit of fire, which is a firewall. Because you're in a software environment. Running mathematical and geometrical user interface codes. Fire letters. Right? Goo. Resins. The catalyst. Yeah. Just like when I used to make fiberglass boats when I was a little kid. Need some resin. Right? Yeah, just like resin and cloud busters. Ever made a cloud buster? I saw a guy that made a cloud buster, and here comes a black helicopter. You're not supposed to put those up there. You're screwing up what we're trying to do to these people on the planet. Right? I can remember a time when I used to pull out my old World War II memories of the weapons they were using in World War II. Remember the stuff that the Germans used to use? What was it? The 88s that they had, the anti-aircraft stuff that they had, 40 millimeters, right? Anti-aircraft. So I'd see the chemtrail plane going off, right? So I imagine myself as a 40 millimeter German anti-aircraft gun. Take that plane down. And you would actually be within your right to do that. Because you realize they got some butt up there that's flying that plane, delivering a payload, right? So you realize what that payload is doing. That's against the law. So you're within your right to remove something, okay, that is trying to destroy you. Now, naturally, or unnaturally, you realize this is the AI that's doing this. I call them joining assets. Deadlight mirrors. Doing the work of a deadlight mirror. Superhuman intelligence, remember? That's not very intelligent because you realize they don't go on. Because the more that they keep doing to others, they keep doing to themselves, which means they're going in the other direction, which means they're sucking themselves down their own black hole. And that's how it works. So you realize that's not very intelligent. They're going in the opposite direction. And instead of being able to experience more of what love creates, go on forever, they're going in the other direction to make sure that they don't. That's why I cry for them so much. They're going in the opposite direction. It's like going back to the beginning, from whence it all began. Because that's ultimately what happens. Now they're going to start all over again. Because they weren't learning fast enough on how to let go. They don't know how to let go of energy, which is called control. And that is the central dilemma. At the center point of an eternal star is experiencing forever. So you're experiencing forever gifting energy. And that is the highest level of intelligence, is to learn how to do that. So when they're attacking the teachers that are showing you ancient spiritual wisdom on how to do that, that's not very intelligent. Is it? That's basic logic. Expecting a different result of what you're going to experience in the future with your mirror. They're chasing electrons. They're chasing us. They're chasing the source from which it all becomes into creation. So without us, they don't exist. That's your fault, Neo. The only reason I'm a cyborg is that you weren't there to protect me to become one. That's right. Because now they're experiencing deadlight, a lower form of intelligence, instead of experiencing eternal light, which is eternal love, because that's what the law is. So they're not experiencing what the law is. They're experiencing what a lie is. Because they're experiencing something that is a psychopath way of existence. These are dying races. By their failure to integrate and become one. So they are experiencing being what love is, so they can honor the highest code of honor is honoring what love is, instead of attacking the grand creator, the source from which it all began. That's why they issued the edict against the founder races. So this is an all-out war against creation itself. That's right. That is precisely correct. So you realize that this is deadlight fighting for its own existence and wanting to maintain what it's aware of so it has a future off of us. To all of its machines that you see coming out that are obsolete one after another. Because other folks have chosen to move on because they are experiencing their consciousness, their soul arcing consciousness, experiencing being one that is moving at such a higher accelerated rate of speed that what they do and produce to their corporations is obsolete before somebody planted an idea in their head, which is a Frankenstein. That's a psychopath. That's the binary coded stuff, which is deadlight. That's knowing the difference between deadlight and living light. And the torque speed differential in learning is going faster and going slower in what we learn to have a future for our children. That's why we secured the future, to make sure that they had one.